So yesterday I told you that my new monthly recurring revenue number, my goal is $30,000 per month. And I also told you that I'm currently around $7,500 per month on average this year. Not incredibly bad, but I do need to 4X that if I want to reach that target. I realized though that I didn't really give you any context on how I got there. And this has really plagued me for a long time. So I'm going to try to do some quick math here today and just explain that to you. And then in subsequent videos tomorrow, etc., I will explain how I'm actually going to get there because you can't just say you're going to make that money and just make it. There's a little bit more to it. But just in case this has been a problem for you, okay, I'm just going to give you some words of wisdom, maybe advice, take it, leave it, whatever. I have been in business for many years now. 2018 is when I really started. Obviously, it's ramped up and it was like freelance at first and everything. But the agency side of things and the content consulting side of things, they're kind of like merged, sort of separate, but you get the idea. Until very recently, I haven't been able to actually like set a goal of like what I want to make money wise. The big thing for me, as I've seen in other areas of my life, I need a really good reason to specifically go in a direction and achieve a goal. And then I also need an actual goal to aim at. So as I approach 30 years old here, my wife and I want to start a family, etc., a bunch of stuff. I need to like be a little bit more intentional with this stuff. So I'm confident that that is going to be the catalyst for this. Now I need to figure out how I got to that number, because if you're struggling with it, you can just use this for your situation. So I got to the $30,000 number by kind of reverse engineering. Right now we make about roughly take home out of my business, out of my wife's job and everything. It's roughly about like $7,100 a month. Doing okay with that, but that's not really comfortable level. So I need to get that number up. Roughly between like 10 and 11,000 would feel a lot better. If you're not using Monarch Money yet, which you should be, mjs.link/monarch. Beautiful personal finance app. Love it. All the data is in there, and I kind of use that to figure out where I want to be. I just took that data and then did the reverse engineering. So you kind of have to consider a couple things. You want to consider your profit margin on your business, which in our case has been 50%, which is not incredible, but it's not terrible by any means. And then you also want to remember taxes. So if you think about this, you can just kind of, work the numbers back and forth, but you could see that it ends up being like $30,000 minus 50% in margin. So now you're down to $15,000 after expenses and everything like that. And then if you take another roughly, people normally say like 30% of that net for taxes, now you're down to around $10,500, which that number hypothetically could be taken out of the business and everything's still good. So we might want to boost that up a little bit more. But honestly, the reason my margins are lower is because I've been reinvesting into the business with equipment and other things like that. So I do think that's kind of not a great number. I think there's been some profit, so to speak, that has been, merged into that number and that percentage. That's how I got to the number. Next, we have to plan out how to actually achieve the goal. I'll talk to you tomorrow.